religion. We'll be right back. Stay with us. I want to talk about the LGBT town hall last night and the visceral hatred of Christianity exhibited by the Democrats. As a Daily Caller's headline puts it, Democratic candidates speak out on Christian faith's compatibility with LGBT issues. That's a pretty good way to put it. I would say that that is really the way that they look at this. And it's not compatibility, but that does have the order correct. First of all, note the priority. The priority is we've got this LGBT belief system out there. They got a lot of beliefs about gender, about marriage, about sex, about certain practices. And that comes first. And you must conform to what they affirm, and you must conform to what they deny. It is a confession of faith, as I said before. Every Christian creed. What does creed mean? It's Latin for what we believe, right? A credo, right? So you have a creed, and it says, we affirm this, we deny this. Well, the LGBT religion has that as well. They have affirmations and denials, and you better agree with them, or they will shut you down. And so as we look at what these individuals are saying, Warren focuses, and we heard this a lot, well, I just want to focus on love. To which I would say, well, you know, the word love, as C.S. Lewis pointed out, there's 4 different words that refer to love. I think the one that they're talking about is eros, is what that's the love that they're talking about. But we've got actually more quotes than that. We've got Cory Booker slammed Christians. He said, Christians have used religion as justification for discrimination. What he means by that is racial discrimination. He said, people use religion to discriminate against African Americans. So for me, I can't allow as a leader that people are going to use religion as a justification for discrimination. Well, I mean, he hasn't really had too much to say about that joining of religion and politics called Islam. They have a lot to say about discrimination against different groups of people, especially against people just like these Democrats. You must affirm or deny what they affirm or deny, or they're going to enslave you or kill you. But when we talk about Christianity being used to discriminate against people, that is a straw man argument for Christianity. No Christian is going to be a racist. You have to understand that if you define Christianity, you pay attention to what the Bible says. The Bible says that God has created each and every one, all nations, all peoples, all tongues, all tribes, of one blood. One blood. There is one race, the human race. It was evolutionists who created the different distinctions. You know, they're talking about Caucasian, they talk about Negroid, they talk about Mongoloid, or whatever. That was evolutionists who did that. And, of course, they would put their own race at the top. You know, the white people who came up with that, they put Caucasian at the top. The Asians, as they did it, they put the Mongolian race, so-called, quote-unquote, they put that at top. Everybody puts their own race at the top of the pyramid. But there's kind of the 3 different divisions that people would come up with. But look, everybody is, according to the Bible, everybody is descended from Adam and Eve. Everybody is descended from Noah. So we all have a common ancestor. And as I've said before, the real difference is which way we're racing. Are we racing to God or away from him, right? That's the only real race that is addressed in the Bible. Buttiegieg said Christians use their religious beliefs against LGBT people. Now think about that. Think about that. What he is saying really is that if Christians have things that they affirm or deny, if their beliefs conflict with the LGBT beliefs, what the LGBT affirm or deny, then that is wrong. And let's understand that Buttiegieg, as well as most of these Democrat candidates, they really are, if they're not open Marxists, they're closet Marxists. And the Marxists have always hated God. The Marxists have always hated religion. Lenin took all the church buildings and turned them into museums, completely banned any expression of religion. And we're going right down that path with these Democrats. If you can't see that from last night's town hall, that is the major takeaway. They hate diversity. They hate free speech. They hate religion. Anything that they disagree with, they seek to ban. They seek to cancel. They seek to censor. And that's really what we're seeing here. And so, Buttiegieg, again, this is a guy who, his father was a Marxist. He went to Harvard. He studied under a guy who his whole doctoral thesis was about deconstructing Christianity. Everything about America he hates. And he hates it, and he deconstructs it by putting it into a Christian paradigm and talking about, these Puritans this and these Puritans that. That's what his Harvard mentor, who named himself after Sacco and Vanzetti, he changed his first name. He called himself Sockvan because he loved Sacco and Vanzetti so much. That was Buttigieg's Marxist mentor at Harvard. And he says, I really feel marriage has moved me closer to God, and I wish the VP, Vice President Pence, could understand that. And he says he doesn't believe that being gay is a sin. Well, Buttigieg has said, God created me like this. Well, I don't know where you get your information about God, Buttiegieg, or your information about Christianity. If you don't believe the Bible, why would you pick and choose certain parts of it? If the same Bible that defined God for you also defined what gender is. Male and female, he created them. End of story. If you believe the Bible, if you don't believe the Bible, then why would you believe anything about God or the fact that he created you or anything like that? I mean, this is the kind of mind game lies that are being told to us by these Marxists like Buttigieg. So the Bible defined God. The Bible defined gender, male and female, he created them. The Bible defined marriage as between one man and one woman. Very clear about all that stuff. The Bible also said in Romans 1 that these people are going to create idols to worship, right? They know that there's a God. That's one of the reasons why he addresses this. But they will make the God that they want to see. As a matter of fact, it was Mark Twain who said, God created man and man returned the favor. We are constantly creating God in our image, the God that we want God to be. And that's precisely what Buttiegieg is doing here. Yeah, God doesn't, you don't get to redefine things that God has defined and then pretend that you're worshiping the same God. So forget about all of this rhetoric that we hear from the Democrats about that. And as a matter of fact, God defined sin as well. He said after they create a God that isn't a real God, then the final stages of this are going to be what we saw last night. The LGBT agenda. We're going to have the final stages of depravity are going to be homosexuality. God also defines justice and mercy. That's what sin is about. Do this, don't do that. As I've always told my kids, one of the reasons, when you're little, we tell you don't touch the hot range. And we don't tell you that just because we're on some kind of a power trip. We tell you that because we don't want you to get hurt. And you see that over and over again from God's instructions about how to live life. And if you don't pay attention to that, you're going to get hurt. But Elizabeth Warren went on to say, when you have a federal law that conflicts with state law, when the federal law then will take precedent. And, of course, any judicial rulings that are going to redefine gender, which is kind of what they're looking at right now, or any rulings that redefine life, or any rulings that redefine marriage, well, then those are going to take precedent as well. Actually, we're going to be joined coming up in this hour. We'll be talking about the Constitution. We're going to have Richard Proctor joining us. But we got a little bit more to say about Buttiegieg when we come back. Stay with us. Last night at the LGBT town hall with CNN, it was interrupted as you had protesters shouting at Buttiegieg, trans people are dying. Trans people are dying. Do something. And he said, well, yeah, I agree. Yeah, they're absolutely right to be angry and upset at the lack of attention, he said. He remained silent. He nodded his head to the shouts from the crowd. Trans people are dying. Well, they're not dying at the rate of 3,000 a day. They're not being murdered and having that funded by the government like we have with the abortion industry. You know, this morning I came in and one of the first things I saw, just before I saw the clips from the LGBT town hall last night, was this video that was put up by Reuters. It is a mother panda cuddling her young cub at the Berlin Zoo. Guys, run that B-roll there as I talk about this. And I tweeted out, I said, you know, everybody's heart goes out to videos like this. Why is it that our hearts have been hardened to human babies? Isn't it amazing as I look at this? I think, how could we be so callous to our own children when our natural affections are triggered just seeing any kind of baby animal like that, the baby panda? And I said, it's absolutely amazing because it's the power of media. It's the power of political narrative that can make us despise our own babies. We spend millions of dollars to kill them. And then we brag about how those abortions are somehow self-empowerment. Article by Zero Hedge, how low will U.S. birth rates go? They're talking about how U.S. birth rates are collapsing. Well, of course, we don't have any compassion for our own children anymore. It was about a month ago that Buttigieg's brother-in-law, who is a Christian pastor, his name is Ryan Gleasman, he went on with Tucker Carlson September the 11th and talked about how he wished that his brother, Buttigieg, would stop misinterpreting Scripture about abortion. So Tucker Carlson said to him, you are, by your own description, non-political. You're not seeking to attack your brother-in-law, but you wanted to talk about abortion. And Ryan Gleasman says, absolutely. Thank you, Tucker. I would like to make a plea to Pete, my brother-in-law, that he would reconsider his position and the way that he's misinterpreting Scripture to push his pro-abortion platform. I would like to make a plea with him that he would reconsider and that he would actually open his Bible. I actually ask all people to open up their Bibles as they're watching this. Turn to Psalm 139, especially verses 13 through 16, and read that, he says. Well, you know what? This is not Fox News, so I can actually read the Bible to you here. So, trigger alert for all you people who hate hearing the Bible, but you like to talk about what it says and doesn't say. Well, here's what it actually does say. I'll give you the New Living Translation, because a lot of people are so familiar with the older translations, they maybe don't hear it. King James Version says, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. But in the New Living Translation, here are those verses that were referenced by the pastor brother-in-law of Pete Buttigieg. You made all the delicate inner parts of my body, and you knit me together in my mother's womb. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous. How well I know it. You watched me as I was being formed. As I was woven together in the dark of the womb. You saw me before I was born. Every day of my life, recorded in your book. That is what we're destroying. We read the news too much and we don't read the Bible enough. And that's the way this is being twisted in this pathetic CNN town hall of hatred as they make an idol that has nothing to do with the God of the Bible. Every moment of our life was laid out before a single day had passed. And these people want to shut you down. They don't want you to be able to read the Bible or certainly not to speak of it. If they disagree, if you do not affirm and deny their opinions, their religious beliefs, you will be canceled, you will be shut down, you will be punished in every way that they can imagine. And they were all climbing over each other to talk about how they were going to punish you in every possible way for anything that you wanted to do. You know, I had a conversation with somebody yesterday talking about justice, talking about mercy. You know, we look at the way that God has laid out our lives. We look at the way that he has defined gender and marriage. We say, well, I don't agree with that, and so because I don't agree with that, I'm not going to allow you to agree with it, and I'm not going to call it a sin. And, you know, I was thinking about this situation I talked about the other day about Amber Geiger, the police officer who went in the wrong apartment and killed a black man. And when I talked about it the other day, I talked about the fact that the judge was, I thought, going light on her. Maybe not going light on her. Maybe, 10 years for manslaughter is not light. She won't serve too much time. But the judge gave her a hug and so forth. And at the same time, just a couple of miles away, some guy got 99 years in jail because he was drunk and they wanted to do a forced blood draw. They had him handcuffed, tied down on a gurney. And without shoes, he was flinging his feet around and landed one on a cop, kicked him. Now, the cop didn't have to go to the hospital, wasn't badly hurt, but he was going to go to jail for 99 years. I talked about that as an injustice. God gives us justice. And we look at somebody like Ted Bundy, who says in prison, he says, well, I became a Christian. A lot of people talk to him, believe that he was sincere in that. Is that something that we can embrace? The government is there to dispense justice. That was what I was upset about with those two cases. Not justice in one of those cases. They're not there to provide mercy. They're not there to give us love. But the justice and the mercy come together at the cross. God cannot be just to say, well, that's okay. Just go. If you had that judge to say to Amber Geiger, well, it's okay. Yeah, I didn't mean it. Go ahead. Or even if you did mean it, you're a cop or whatever, go ahead. That would not be justice. It's not justice to give a 99-year sentence to that other guy. That's not justice. God is all about justice, so he can't do that. But as you saw in that case, the brother of Buttigieg, the brother of the guy who she killed, said, I forgive you. That's the difference. That's what these people don't want to recognize. They don't understand justice, they don't understand sin, and they don't understand the cross. We'll be right back. We're going to talk about the Constitution. Welcome back. Joining us now is our expert on the Constitution, Richard Proctor. Of course, his website is also about economics because he talks about that as well. He has a book, Bathroom Economics. That's the name of his website, bathroomeconomics.com. But he's also got books on the Constitution, written for both adults in very great detail and for children as an introduction to the Constitution. So joining us now is Richard Proctor. Thank you for joining us, Richard.
Glad to be here. I listened to this last segment while I was waiting. Outstanding, young man. Outstanding.
Well, thank you. I haven't been called young man for quite a while, but thank you. We're talking about what was said last night at the LGBT town hall with CNN. One of the things that I thought was amazing that I thought you would like to respond to was what Elizabeth Warren said, as these people are all competing to see how quickly and how hard they could shut down any freedom of religion in this country. She said, when you have a federal law that conflicts with the state law, then the federal law takes precedent. I'd like for your comments on that.
Well, Dave, it's absolutely stupid for the child to think that it takes precedence over the parent. We need to remember that every state is a sovereign nation of its own. Okay, Virginia before the Revolution was a sovereign nation of its own.
That's right.
So is Massachusetts. Today, every state is also a sovereign nation. And those sovereign nations created the Constitution and the federal government. So the federal government is the child to the parents, and the parents dictate to the child what to do.
That's right. That's right. In the same way that you had sovereign nations come together and unfortunately created the UN. And at some point, the UN is trying to do the same thing that the federal government has done to make all the sovereign nations a creature of that. But when they talked about states, that was always the case. And up until the Civil War, they would always say the United States are. They would never say the United States is. That consolidated pyramid structure was a creation of post-Civil War America.
Yes, it was 1870. 1870 is when we stopped. We changed to the Constitution of the United States rather than this Constitution for the United States. Entirely different.
Yes, yes. Absolutely. And so when we look at what Elizabeth Warren is doing, and of course everything that they were talking about was this Equality Act that they're talking about, which would essentially substitute anybody else's opinion about gender or marriage or anything that they disagree with. You would have to agree with them, or they would cancel and shut you down. That's what they call equality. And of course, that also applies to judicial rulings that conflict with whatever the other branches of government say or whatever the states say. That's the mindset of that we have now in Washington, isn't it?
Yes, the mindset we have is that freedom only exists as far as we want it to be. Mm-hmm. We've forgotten all about those rights we have. You know, there are 27 rights listed in the Bill of Rights, and we probably don't even have any of them really left.
Yeah, I don't think so.
They've been all stolen from us by these people in Washington, D.C., and we've let them do it. Let them do it. It's terrible.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and somebody tweeted. I retweeted it today. I saw somebody put something about guns and said, "Well, you know, when they take the Second Amendment, they're going to take the rest of them." And I retweeted that and I said, "I'm sorry, they've already taken the rest of them. They're taking the Second Amendment now because it's about to get much, much worse."
Oh, yeah, but you see, the Second Amendment only reiterates precisely what the Constitution itself says in Article 1, Section 8. Article 1, Section 8, paragraphs 15 and 16 say that the government is to supply the militia, or rather the people, with arms.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The Second Amendment very, very nicely says right in the first few words, I'm just going to paraphrase, to have a free state, you got to have a militia.
Yes, that's right.
And that's the way it is. You got to have a free state, and a free state is what? Iowa, Utah, Nevada. Okay, those are free states. The word state is capitalized. It means individual sovereignty units.
That's right.
We get that all mixed up. We think a state means something that belongs to the United States. No. The United States it belongs to the state's capital.
Yes.
And if we want to shut down the federal government, all we have to do as states is follow what the 6th article teaches us.
Yes, let's talk about that.
Yeah, 6th article. You know, it starts out just saying the debts are going to be paid. Well, let's not worry about that. Let's go to the meat of the 6th article. Article 6 starts these phones that don't have speaker phones on them are the pits. Anyway, here we go. We're on the Article 6. The very first thing it starts to talk about in paragraph 2 is this Constitution and the laws of the United States which shall be made in pursuance thereof, which means laws made in pursuance of the Constitution. And all treaties which will be made in pursuance thereof means that it's under the authority. They have to be under the authority of the Constitution and the laws of the land, or they're not right. Now, that's how it starts out. It starts out saying that the Constitution is the supreme upper law. Everything else must follow it. Now, get into paragraph 3. This is very interesting, probably not read very often. The senators and representatives before mentioned, and that means the federal, and the members of the several state legislatures, that means all the states, all the individual entities, all the sovereign entities, and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States, which is federal, and of the several states, which are states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution. Now, that's the line right there. Every state representative stands and says he will support the Constitution. He'll support this book. We're going to do what we can to keep this book effective. If we, as the states, We just understand that we are sovereign nations, and that if we don't like what the federal government does because it's not in accordance with this document, that paragraph gives us the right to nullify it.
That's right. And we just had a Texas sheriff come out and say, well, if you Democrats think that you're going to confiscate the guns, you're not doing it in my county. Because he's taken an oath to the Constitution. He takes that seriously. And it isn't just the Supreme Court that is going to be the sole arbiter of what follows the Constitution and what doesn't. Every state official and has that authority to do that as well.
Right. The Supreme Court has no judicial authority at all over the things we're talking about.
That's right.
It has 8 things it can do, and that's it. It's listed in Article 3 very precisely.
That's right.
States can nullify anything that comes from the federal government that is not in accordance with the Constitution, because that's the law.
And I think it's a very important thing when we look at it. You know, we talk about how we've got to bring this back to a local level. And I think that really means not even at the state level. We got to go back down to the county level. And we have the power of the sheriff. If we get the right sheriff involved there, they have a great deal of power. And I don't
absolutely.
I don't think that I don't think these bureaucrats in Washington would actually, if we have an association of constitutional sheriffs, I think they can stand up against this. Certainly, they will try to remove that sheriff. We've seen that type of thing done in the past by state governments, at the urging of the federal government and so forth. But I think that's a very, very powerful level. That's where we really need to focus. When we start talking about how we're going to get back control, how it needs to be done at a local level. I mean, start with your sheriff. That's very, very important.
Oh, these things are all important. It's all local. It's absolutely. I work at the state level because I believe that the state guys are responsible for everything. Now, the local level is more correct, but today the state tells even the local level what it can do and what it can't do.
That's right.
We've got to get the state government fixed so they understand that we are a sovereign nation, and we don't have to do anything that the federal government says says if it is against the Constitution. Let's just take this fact.
That's right. We're gonna take a quick break. We're going to be right back talking to Richard Proctor. Again, you can find him at bathroomeconomics.com. Great books on economics and on the Constitution. We'll be right back with Richard Proctor. Stay with us. Welcome back. We're talking to Richard Proctor. We've been talking about Article 6 of the Constitution. And we got more to say about that. I think it's very important to have Richard Proctor on because we don't usually get to delve too deeply into the Constitution, and we need to understand that, as Article 6 points out, every official takes an oath of affirmation to it. So what is in it? You know, just like I was talking about all the Democrats at the CNN Town Forum yesterday were all giving their idea of what God is and what Christianity is, and we understand they don't like them, but they haven't really taken a look at it to see what's in it. And the same thing is true of the Constitution. So it's important that we take a look at that. We're going to get right back to Richard Proctor in just a moment. Before we do, real quickly, though, I want to remind you of the sales that we have at InfoWarsStore.com. We have big discounts, 40 to 70% off everything at InfoWars. Free shipping, double Patriot points at InfoWarsLife.com. Things like Brain Force Plus, 50% off. Free shipping, double Patriot points, Survival Shield X2 nascent iodine, 50% off. Some of the quantities of Survival Shield X3 nascent iodine we have for 70% off. And some of our newest products like VasoBeat, a beet concentrate that acts as a vasodilator. That new product is now 50% off. Take a look at the products that we have. We have many preparedness products that are 40 to 50% or more off. There'd be things like storable food, storable seeds. When we're talking about storable food, this is prepared food. It is non-GMO. It's made in America. It will last for 25 years, full meals. And it's got great packaging. You can reseal it after you open it and use it for a short period of time that takes to go through that. We also have big discounts off of the gravity feed water filtration system from LgbtQ+r and also the air filtration system. We have discounts for that. Many other types of preparedness products, but again, really big discounts off of InfoWars Life products. InfoWarsStore.com. We really do appreciate your support. All right, Richard, let's get back to Article 6 of the Constitution. We're just talking about how the individuals affirm at every level of government. They affirm their oath to the Constitution. It also says something about religious tests, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Can't use those. But let me start from another point here on the same subject. Now, let me wander back to a contract. The Constitution is a contract between three parties, between two parties establishing another party, but all of them are part of the contract. The federal government, the people, and the states. Okay? Mm-hmm. That's not the order of importance. They're all equally important here. Now, well, the people and the states are more important than the federals. But anyway, so now let's look. Let's look at Black's Law Dictionary for a moment. That's the big dictionary the attorneys want to use, Black's Law Dictionary. Amendments. When you read amendments, there's two kinds, judicial in court and contract. Let's just concentrate on the contract kind. In the contract kind, when you strip off all the reference to the Supreme Court have put in it, you just look at the words of the amendment. It says, this is just a short run of it, it says that contracts can be added to, they can be corrected by amendments, both of those things. But amendments can't change the contract. It can't change it. The contract stays the same. If you want to change the contract, you write a new one. Well, the contract of the Constitution was written in 17, and it was ratified in 88. That contract has never been changed. Therefore, those 7 articles are the key words. Now, after that, we have 27 amendments, but only amendments that are in accordance with a contract are valid. That says, all by itself, that if the states want to get their senators back under the legislature, all they have to do is nullify the 17th Amendment, because it is unconstitutional. It alters the original document, and the law says an amendment can't alter the original document. That means it's all illegal. And we can go through the amendments and show all of these that are illegal. The 10th is great. We don't have to worry about the first 10. Okay, they're all add-ons. But when you get to the 14th and you look at the second paragraph and it deletes 3 important words and direct taxes, then you know that that's not legal. You can't do that. So we go back to the states that will have direct taxes upon them based on apportionment. Therefore, the 16th Amendment in all of its words is wrong, and it can be nullified. The 17th Amendment in all of its words is wrong, and it can be nullified by any state just using the words of the document, the contract, the Constitution. The Constitution is the key to this whole country. Let's use it.
Yes.
Nobody knows it. Nobody knows it.
And, when we talk about having a rule of law, what we mean is that the law is the ruler. Yes. That's a big part of what the 6th article is pointing out. It's like, well, you're going to, as a condition of your office, you're going to have to swear to honor and uphold the Constitution. We're not going to make a religious test about this, but you're going to have to honor the Constitution. That kind of goes back as we look at some of the founding principles of our country. Goes back to the idea. It was a book called Lex Rex by Samuel Rutherford. And basically what that means in Latin is that the law is king. And so all these people that are there, they're just temporary stewards, and they're swearing their oath of loyalty, as we talk about in Article 6, they're swearing their oath of loyalty to the Constitution as the lawful king. But then they act, today they act as if they are becoming kings and dictators. I mean, we look at what Kamala Harris has to say. She says, well, I'm going to give Congress 100 days to get rid of all the guns and to enact my preferences. And if they don't do it within 100 days, I'm just going to start doing things by executive order.
Sorry, can't be done.
Yeah.
Anything that's against the doctrine is illegal. Okay? Confiscating guns is illegal. Everybody should stand up against it. Every state should nullify it. Every sheriff should say, you're not going to do this. All those things. Just the contract was ratified in 88, and it still stands. It has not been changed.
That's right. And
That's
today,
why we don't want a con-con. If a con-con comes in, it'll destroy this Constitution. You can bet your life, period.
Yes. And that is a very dangerous thing, and it's being put out. The Constitutional Convention, the con-con, is being floated by a lot of conservatives as well.
They think, oh yeah, we'll put an amendment in there and we'll have a balanced budget and all these kind of garbage. Nothing. If they organize one when the gavel drops on the opening day, the opening minute of a con, that group takes precedence over everything, and you can't tell them anything, and they will do what they want, and you're stuck. You don't have any 3/4 of the states or anything like that. They say there's regions, there are no states. Guys, we're in real trouble because we're not paying attention to that document. If the states would just do that, then they can nullify anything that comes from any of this stuff and say it's not in accordance with the document. We won't do it. And we are a sovereign nation.
If you think that they're going to somehow balance the budget and have a balanced budget amendment with a constitutional convention when these guys won't balance the budget when they have the votes, I mean, that's a fool's hope. I mean, the problem that we got is not that there's a flaw in the Constitution, there's a flaw in our politicians, and these are the politicians who are creating a new Constitution for us. I mean, that's insanity.
Now, isn't that's insanity? You bet that thing, you keep doing the same thing, you expect different results is insanity. You're exactly right.
That's right.
I get so excited about this. I get so carried away. You should see me when I'm giving a presentation in front of an audience. The poor guys, they don't get a chance. Oh, my Lord.
Well, let's talk about that last little bit of the Article 6 there. No religious test. Just as we've seen with so many different things, they've turned the Constitution upside down, turned it on its head, and now we have a religious test. We keep seeing, when they bring up a judge or something like that, we keep seeing the Democrats say, well, wait a minute, aren't you a member of some Christian group? Didn't you speak to some Christian group? That automatically disqualifies you for office.
Yeah, I guess but they didn't read the last sentence of the Article 6 again. The articles that are the most important, in the order that I feel are important, is Article 7. That's the ratification of the document. Article 6, that's the supreme law and how you're supposed to do it. Then Article 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Mm-hmm. But the sixth is absolutely crucial, and it's very short. I mean, it's only 3 paragraphs. Come on, folks. It's easy to read. Read the words. Don't read them how you think they ought to say. Read what they do say.
That's right. That's right.
That's
we don't need somebody to translate it for us. It's not written in another language, fortunately.
Everything that I talk about with you on the air like this, anything I talk about with you is written in the book Saving the Constitution. Nobody has to take notes. They just have to buy the book. And the book is, it's terrible. It's so much more than even one meal in a restaurant. Oh, my laws, I'm going to spend $20 for a book when I'm going to the restaurant tomorrow and spend $30 a plate.
Yeah, that's right. Excellent source of information against that. That's the, section by section with commentary from Richard Proctor, Saving the Constitution. And he's also got one for you to teach your children, the Constitution, if you can keep it. You can find those at bathroomeconomics.com. That's our program for today. Thank you for joining us.